Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 279 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by, you already know who it is. It is of course the former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. How you feeling?
All good, my friend, all good. This podcast, I'm going to try to fly through it as quick as possible because we have had unspeakable technical issues this week. So I'm going to try to whiz through it as quick as possible. We're going to start with the review part of the show. We're going to start, of course, at the Wembley Arena Friday, it was almost Friday the 13th, you'd have thought. It was actually Saturday the 13th. Let's get to the undercard. A win for Ivan Price on points there. A win for Dalton Smith. A good win, actually. He's now 7-0. I think it was a late replacement for him, actually. He fought Ishmael Ellis, who ended up retiring on his stall. And that happened in, which round was that again? Round 3. Lee Wood, good win for him. A TKO in the 9th round against Reese Mould. It was a really good fight, actually. Reese Mould had his moments as well. He was down in the 4th and twice in the 9th and final round. Lee Wood, the deserved British featherweight champion, now 24-2. I'm sure there'll be some big fights out there for him. Zelfa Barrett, now 25-1. A unanimous decision against former super bantamweight world champion Kiko Martinez. He's now 41-10 with 2 draws. Barrett was cut over his right eye in the 7th round. Very interesting fight, actually. I didn't score the fight round by round, but it was obviously a close one. Kiko Martinez, you can't buy experience. He was able to trouble Zelfa a few times. Zelfa was getting caught with the short left hook from Martinez and the straight right hand a lot. Zelfa kept going back in straight lines. It was a much tougher fight than many people expected it would be, and I expected Zelfa to probably win on points, but 2 of the 3 scorecards were atrocious. They were very wide. Credit to Eddie Hearn as well for addressing it in the post-fight interview. In my opinion, Zelfa needed to work off the jab more. He has got a good jab when he decides to use it. It's not all about flashy combinations and trying to knock someone out with every shot. He should have used his jab more to set things up. He was the much taller fighter with the much faster feet, and I just think he made it difficult for himself, and a lot of people actually think he probably lost the fight. Perhaps even more people think he lost the fight, but he got the decision there. And like I say, a couple of scorecards were unbelievable. But yeah, I don't think that's the best of Zelfa Barrett. I don't think he put it all together like he can do. It was a close fight, like I say, and I wasn't surprised he got the victory in the end. It wasn't. I thought that Kiko Martinez would do well to get the decision over here. A fight that was that close. I don't think it was wide to either guy. And the main event, wow, what a shocker! Josh Warrington. He was 30-0 going in. He loses his O against Maurizio Lara, who's now 22-2. I was very disrespectful towards Lara on last week's show. I said, no one wants to see him in a ring. Wow, I mean, I just can't believe Josh Warrington. You've got a feel for him, kind of. He decided to vacate his belt. He didn't want to fight Galahad. There would have been good money in that fight. He didn't want to fight. He did want to fight Can Xu in the unification. That didn't happen. At one stage, there was the possibility of the Shakur Stevenson fight. These were all big money fights, perhaps even pay-per-view fights. They've all gone because he decided to fight Maurizio Lara. And, you've got a feel for Lara because the IBF didn't even sanction the fight. They didn't even think it was a good fight for their belt. And I don't understand how, because he was ranked in the top 15, but he's proven there, Lara, that he perhaps even should be a world champion right now. He's got to be quite disappointed. He went in there and absolutely smashed Josh Warrington to pieces, and I cannot believe it. No one can, actually. Going through the fight itself, though, I'm going to get onto it pretty quickly here. Warrington was clearly the much better boxer for me. Lara apparently did seem to have those ridiculously heavy hands that we were kind of getting told in the build-up, but no one really knew because he didn't really have any standout names on his record. It's easy to knock out these guys who are not very good. So we didn't know how good he was. We didn't know how legit his power was, but it seemed to be very, very legit. He put Warrington down in the fourth. Warrington's legs were all over the place. Howard Foster, the referee, pretty much got Warrington through that round. He came out in the next round and his legs still did not look right. They were still shaky. The clash of styles seemed to be all wrong for Josh Warrington. He did cause some bad swelling on Lara's right eye. I'll give Warrington credit for that. And it happened after he got hurt, actually. So big credit for that. Warrington just couldn't deter Lara. Lara walked through everything Warrington threw, and the whole fight, Warrington's punch resistance just wasn't there. He was getting hurt constantly. He was getting caught time and time again, and then in the 9th round, he was dropped. It was hard, and the referee did the right thing to wave it off. He'd seen enough, and I've got to say it's a big criticism, but I just have to say it. Josh Warrington looked like Amir Khan when he got caught, or every time he gets caught. It looked like that. If you blindfolded me and I couldn't, well, that wouldn't work. But if I don't know, if for some reason you told me that was Amir Khan and he, it looked like Amir Khan. It looked like Amir Khan. I can't. That's just what it looked like to me. He was getting hit and hurt. He had no, it looked like he had no chin, where I've never said that about Warrington before. He seems like he takes a good shot. He just didn't have it, man. He did not have it, and it was shocking. Like I say, credit to Lara. He really made me eat my words after last week, and I just can't believe that Warrington now is beltless. He's lost his O. He wouldn't have been paid heavily for this fight here, and he's, this is where he is. What a tough position. Incredible. I have to feel sorry for him. I really do, because no one saw this coming, especially him. And like that, if you're one of the other champions, if you're a Kanzu, what's really the point in fighting him now? He doesn't have anything to offer you. There's no crowds. I think his stocks have gone plummeting there. Anyway, moving out now to the Fantasy Springs Casino in Indio, California. Over here, couple fights to mention. A win for Shane Mosley Jr. He's now 17-3. His opponent Christian Olivas retired at the end of round 5 there. That one was for the vacant WBO NABO super middleweight title. Ronnie Rios with a win, unanimous over 10 rounds, very wide in the end against Oscar Negrete. Quite surprising, actually. I thought that would be a more competitive fight, but Ronnie Rios, very good win, 33-3 his record. Patrick Teixeira, the Brazilian, he loses his WBO World Super Welterweight title. He was beaten soundly by Brian Castano, who again I was bigging up last week, and for good reason. He looked unbelievable, highly impressive there. Patrick Teixeira now 31-2. Brian Castano, he wants that Charlo fight, I believe. He's now 17-0 with a draw. He's the new world champion. Really, honestly, great fighter he is. And Joseph Jojo Diaz now 31-1 with a draw, a majority draw against Shavkatzon Rakhimov, who's now 15-0 with a draw. The title was only on the line for Rakhimov because Diaz missed the weight. It's not the first time in his career he's missed the weight, Jojo Diaz. It seems to be a problem. He lost the weight when he was at the weight below. When he was at featherweight, he missed the weight once for a world title fight, and the belt wasn't on the line for him. He won the fight, but he couldn't take the belt home. And here he loses his title on the scales. Tevin Farmer, if he had hair, he'd be ripping it out. He was furious, absolutely furious. They're already talking about who's going to be fighting for the vacant title, and it's going to be Kenichi Ogawa and someone else. Can't remember who the other guy is. I think he's from Eastern Europe somewhere. Kagawa's the guy that Tevin Farmer lost to, but then he tested positive for PED. So Tevin Farmer's double angry. Joseph Jojo Diaz, something just didn't look right from him. I don't know what it was. Something just didn't look right. Rakhimov turned up. He turned up to fight. And many people thought he should have got the decision, actually. So he wasn't too pleased. Joseph Jojo Diaz went straight on Twitter after the fight and said he wants to fight the likes of Jamel Herring, the likes of Berchelt, the likes of whoever the other champion is at Super Feather. I can't remember who the other one was. Anyway, called out all the champions and is it Gervonta? I can't remember. Called out all the champions and I don't understand why anyone would want to fight him now, because once again, he has lost his belt. He's a really good fighter, just like Warrington, same kind of thing. Aside from the fact that Warrington got knocked out and took a loss and actually threw the belt in the bin before the fight, Joseph Jojo Diaz, he lost the belt on the scales, fair enough. I think the payday was quite big though, but what a way to go out. Both guys have shot themselves in the foot on the same evening there, Joseph Jojo Diaz and Warrington, who was 30-0, and Joseph Jojo Diaz 31-1. Maybe something there, dirty 30s, I don't know. Anyway, moving out now to the bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. Over here, one fight to mention on the undercard. A good win for friend of the show, Jared Anderson, the undefeated heavyweight. They're talking about him being the next big thing. They're talking about him perhaps being, the what do you call it? The next kind of big heavyweight hope from the USA. Many people think he's a world champion in the making, but it was a good win for him. He bloodied up the nose of his opponent, who, like I said on last week's show, he went the distance with Guido Vianello and got a draw. That was his last fight. So very impressive from Anderson. And Anderson had never been in the 6th round, and he entered that in this fight here, but he did get the stoppage in the end. He continues his 100% KO streak, and like I say, they're hailing him as the next big heavyweight hope. He did as well say in his post-fight interview that he wants to fight guys with undefeated records. He wants to take zeros, and I like that attitude. You've got to feel for Joe Smith Jr. as well. He didn't end up fighting for the world title in the end because his opponent, Maxim Vlasov, tested positive for COVID and the fight was called off at the last minute. Absolutely devastating stuff there for Joe Smith Jr. Gutted. Elsewhere on that same card, Richard Comey, he was the main event in the end. He got elevated to the main event. He moved to 30 career wins. He's got those 3 losses. It was a KO in round 6 against Jackson Marinez. Again, very impressive from Comey. He's still got that power. We know that. Jackson Marinez, in his one loss, he'd gone the distance with Rolando Romero, a guy who's being hyped up heavily. So for Comey to do one better than that and knock his man out, that's impressive for me. In that 6th round, it was a straight right hand. It was like a 1-2, that put Marinez down. And then Marinez, he got back up and literally, as soon as he got back up, Comey ran over to him and hit him with the exact same combo, the straight 1-2, boom, boom, and his opponent went down like he got shot, actually. There was no need for the count. Good night. I like to see that from Comey. He's a guy I'm actually a big fan of. He's got 3 losses in total, hasn't he? 2 of them were very controversial, to Robert Easter and to Denis Shafikov, I think it was, and they were both split decisions in his opponent's backyards. And then, of course, he lost by KO to Teofimo Lopez. No dispute in that, but we've gone on to see what Teofimo can do. And Teofimo was there as well. He was in the corner, actually. He seems to be really cool with Comey, which is really good to see. But anyway, that's it for that one. I believe that is it for the review part of the show. The final thing to do before we wrap up part 1 is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated welterweight, ranked number 6 in the world with a WBO. It is, of course, Mr. Michael McKinson. Mike, welcome back on the show, my man.
Hiya, how you doing?
Absolutely doing very well now I'm speaking with you, Mike. So, Mike, we last spoke almost a year to the day ago. It was just before that Louis Green fight, which obviously was postponed due to COVID. You did, however, end up having a fight, albeit in the late part of 2020, against a fellow undefeated fighter, Martin Harkin. Good win for you once again. Tell us a couple words on that one.
Yeah, I'm just grateful to be able to fight last year, really. Obviously, I was meant to fight Louis Green. Then the pandemic happened. Then I was meant to fight another guy, and they ended up that cancelling. So I had 3 training camps last year, 3 full training camps more or less, and I'm thankfully the third one actually went ahead, and I managed to fight. And I'm grateful to even fight because I know there's a lot of guys that have not been able to fight last year, a lot of boxers and stuff like that. So I'm extremely grateful to be able to fight, and even better that beating a dangerous unbeaten guy, you know.
Yeah, no, brilliant win, and it was a fight we wanted to see. You've had trouble getting, guys from these shores in the ring with you, but anyway, you've spent a long time calling out these big fights for a long time. Like I say, almost to the point where it's been frustrating for boxing fans that support you. Like, why doesn't anyone want to fight you, Mike? But anyway, here we have it. Chris Kongo, he's the man that stepped up to the plate. Is this the kind of fights that you were hoping for?
Yeah, definitely. I believe I've been about the big names for a couple of years now, and I have made noise to try and get the fights, and nothing ever came of it really. People talk about the likes of Chris Kongo, Josh Kelly, Conor Benn, and my name was never mentioned for whatever reason. After my last fight, I got out the ring and I called Chris Kongo out. It went quiet over Christmas and the New Year, and then we got offered the fight about a month ago, you know. So I'm glad to be finally on this stage. I'm glad my name to be mentioned alongside the pot of good fighters now, because I deserve to be here. It was just a matter of time, but now I'm here and I'm not planning on staying. Leaving.
Good you corrected that. But
yeah.
The date's set for March the 6th. In fact, well, we're not quite sure where it's going to be at the minute, but it's going to be on the Povetkin Whyte 2 undercard. What are your thoughts on Kongo as a fighter, Mike? I must say I kind of respect the way he's come up. I say the way he's come up. His last fight was a good, and that's what I'm saying. But you've sparred him in the past. It was quite a while ago. What's your thoughts on Kongo as a fighter, Mike?
He's a very good fighter. Chris Kongo's a very good fighter.
Big guy.
Yeah, he got a great win over Luther Clay. He's very dangerous. I actually think he's the most dangerous one in the pot. I don't necessarily think he's the best, but he's definitely the most dangerous. So the victory will be even more sweet when I do win. There's the respect there, but this is my golden ticket to change my life and change my daughter's life, you know. So I'm coming and I'm snatching everything away from Chris Kongo.
Oh, excellent words, man. And, we get a lot of guys coming through, undefeated guys that seem, I don't want to say they're scared to risk it, but for whatever reason, fights don't happen. Like we say, you've been calling out, a big fight for a long, long time. Kongo stepped up against Clay, like you mentioned. It seems like you two are probably the only two right now domestically at welterweight that have that energy. You share that same energy to want to put it all on the line. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, we're both two hungry fighters. I can guarantee Chris Kongo's never been in the ring with somebody as hungry and as determined as I am, you know. He's had one proper fight, and to be fair, it was a good win over Luther Clay. I've done close to 100 rounds of sparring with Luther Clay in the past, and there's the respect for Luther Clay there as well. But when it comes to levels, I'm a few levels above these guys, and I think Chris is going to find that out on March 6th very quickly.
And you say that Chris is probably the most dangerous welterweight in the country.
Yeah.
Why? What makes you say that? Because obviously, I don't know if you're speaking about literally everyone like your Khans and Brooks, but help me understand that. Why is he the most dangerous guy?
Yeah, you can't really put Khan and Brook into the. I don't know if they'll ever fight at welterweight again. But Chris he's a big welterweight. He carries a lot of punching power and he's very athletic. So I would class him as the most dangerous to fight, definitely. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best. You know, like Josh Kelly's very talented, also, and obviously Chris Jenkins' experience, and there's a good pot to be involved in at the moment. But I just think with the athleticism and the size and the strength that Chris Kongo possesses, I just class him as the most dangerous.
Okay, well there you go. It is a fight that everyone is definitely looking forward to. I want to get your take, Mike, on a couple of other fights taking place at welterweight. Involving guys, domestically. Conor Benn against Sammy Vargas. I like that fight, man. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Firstly, Conor Benn's obviously had a lot of stick in his professional career off the other welterweights and people wanting to fight him and jump at him on his performances and who he's fighting, etc. And I'm one of them. I'm one of the main people that have been on that train. But you've got to give Conor Benn credit. He's improved a heck of a lot. He's doing his own thing, but everyone can see him improving. And there's not really much bad words I can say to Conor Benn, and he deserves the credit now. So how do I think that fight will go? I don't necessarily think that fight is a step up from Formella. I personally think Conor Benn will stop Vargas late on. I think the media and everything will hype it to be another step up, but I don't believe that whatsoever.
Okay, yeah, no, interesting take. And this weekend as well, Josh Kelly, David Avanesyan. I remember asking you this a year ago. At that time, you said you thought it'd be quite a close fight through the first half. Perhaps David Avanesyan would be losing on points, but then he'd rally back and perhaps stop Josh late on. Everyone seems to be flip-flopping and changing their mind. It's been such a long time. We've had about 4 or 5 cancellations. It's finally here. What's your latest and probably last prediction on this one?
I've been on the fence for ages on this one. I couldn't call it. For ages, I thought Avanesyan would be too much for Josh Kelly over the 12 rounds. I think Josh Kelly's got every tool to be able to get the job done. He looks very, very prepared. He looks well up for the fight, and for the first time, I'm going to make my thoughts on the fight. I'm going to say Josh Kelly wins on a close points. And that's the first time I've said in any interview, anywhere, that I think Josh Kelly's going to win. And it's fight week, and I've changed my mind last minute.
No, I appreciate that. That is, it's a fight we're all looking forward to. And I know that you, not just as a boxer, but also as a fan, sometimes like to sit back and watch these fights happen. This is one I know you'll be tuned in for. I'm a
massive boxing fan.
Yeah.
I am a massive boxing fan, and that is a great fight for the fans. I'll be tuning in as a fan. Hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to get one of them guys. But for now, I'll sit back and as a fan. Also with the Florian Marco and Ryan Charlton fight, Ooh, yeah. Not saying I want to fight them because they've had less than 10 pro fights and stuff like that. But what a matchup that looks to be. On the same card as the Josh Kelly one. So I'll be tuning in, sitting back and enjoying a good night of boxing, I think.
Oh man, that's another great one there. Okay, so yeah, that's oh man, what a great night! Really a brilliant night for welterweights. I remember as well last time we spoke, you actually were saying that you were at the time really looking forward to the Clay Kongo fight as well. That was before you even knew you'd be fighting the winner. But anyway, I want to get your take on the main event of the card that you're on, Dillian and Povetkin. Is it revenge for Dillian or is it repeat for Povetkin, Mike?
I think Dillian won't make the same mistakes as last time on this one. He was in control. He had dropped Povetkin a couple of times. He was cruising the fight, and I think he switched off a little bit. When you've got somebody as inexperienced and as dangerous as Alexander Povetkin, we all see all it took was one split second and the fight was over. I don't think Dillian Whyte will make that mistake this time. I know he's going to be fully focused, switched on, and I think he'll get the job done. I think he will knock Povetkin out. I think he'll be cautious doing it, but I think he'll knock him out mid to late rounds.
Okay, we hope so. We hope so from a British point of view. And just finally, Mike, I was going to ask you... well, I'm not even going to ask you this because I already know the answer, but I remember last time we spoke, you said as well, Tyson Fury, you're a massive fan of his, so I'm not even going to waste my time and ask about Fury Joshua. I know what you're going to say in that one. But just finally,
Fury
Mike,
all day.
any closing words just to our listeners before we let you go? If you want to, I don't know, thank sponsors, give any closing words, completely say what you like before we let you go, my friend.
Yeah, everyone who's helped me to get to this point, really. Obviously, I'm finally on the big stage, and I know the bookies have me as the underdog. I think many people in the boxing world have me as the underdog as well. But I really do believe in myself. I believe in my team around me, and I promised my city of Portsmouth that win's coming back.
Okay, there we have it. And like we say, go and follow Mike on social media, on Instagram and Twitter, at Mikey the Problem. But listen, Mike, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Best of luck for March 6th, and I hope that we can catch up sometime after. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it. Always got time for you. No worries.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part. Matchroom have announced a fight card to take place in Spain on March 26th. It's a Friday. Over here we get to see Sandor Martin versus K. Prosper. That's a really good fight there for the European super lightweight title. And also Andoni Gargo. That is a guy that off the top of my head got knocked out. I think he got knocked out by Lee Selby on the Hey Bellew 2 undercard, I want to say. Or maybe it was Hey Bellew 1. I can't remember now. I think that's the same guy. And Donny Gargo, he takes on friend of the show, former European champion Gavin McDonnell. That one is actually for the European featherweight title. So Gavin McDonnell hoping to become a 2-time European champion. Also on the card, probably Spain's best fighter at the minute, Sergio Garcia. He is on the card as well. And also Kerman Lejaraga. So that's quite a big card there for Spanish standards. What else do we have? Frank Warren has announced 2 fight cards that are actually taking place one day after the other. The first is March 26th, which is a Friday, of course. Over here, the main event, Akeem Ennis-Brown, 14-0, fights for the Commonwealth and British super lightweight titles against the undefeated 14-0 Sam Maxwell. That is a brilliant fight. Also on the card, Brad Foster takes on Alvaro Rodriguez. Danny Ball, 9-0 with a draw, takes on Sam Gilly. That's a brilliant fight there. And Dennis McCann as well, he features against a decent opponent. It's a step up for him. David Adelaide on the card as well. The very following evening, on the 27th, the Saturday, we get to see topping the bill Chris Jenkins against Eku Esserman for the British and Commonwealth welterweight titles. Also Lennox Clark against Willie Hutchinson for the vacant British and Commonwealth super middleweight titles. Brilliant fights there. Also Nathan Gorman returns to action. He is having his first fight since beating Richard Larty, and there's a few other guys on the undercard, so keep an eye out for those ones there. That's it for the news. Moving on now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here with a card that's going to be taking place in Russia at the Vegas City Hall. And it's a strange one, and I do like strange ones. Fedor Chudanov, 23-2, takes on Isaac Chilemba, 26-7 with 2 draws. I've been thinking about that fight for a good 24 hours now, and I'm just not sure what's going to happen. I think Isaac Chilemba is tough enough to beat Chudanov, but it's tricky to know what Chudanov has left at this point. Very interesting one, very weird one in Russia there. Moving out now to the Wembley Arena in London, United Kingdom. Over here, Jordan Gill, 25-1, takes on Cesar Juarez, who's 25-9. Robbie Davies Jr., friend of the show, 20-2, takes on Gabriel Valenzuela, who's 22-2 with a draw. A brilliant fight for two undefeated punchers. Florian Marku, 7-0 with a draw, takes on Rylan Charlton, who is 6-0 with a draw. That is going to be fireworks. Very much looking forward to that. But even though the undercard fights are quite good, they do not have a patch on the main event. David Avanesyan, 26-3 with a draw, friend of the show. He puts his EBU European welterweight title on the line against the undefeated 2016 Olympian Josh Kelly, 10-0 with a draw. Very interesting fight. David Avanesyan and Josh Kelly. I cannot believe it's finally here. It's got to be the 4th or 5th time it's been rescheduled. COVID, put a stop to it at one point. Josh Kelly on the day of the fight pulled out a couple years ago. I think that was 2018 or 2019. It is a fight that is supposed to have took place a long time ago. And I just cannot believe we're finally here. It is going to be so good. I'm really looking forward to it. Both guys, friend of the show. I'd like to see the best man win here. I really like David Avanesyan and Josh Kelly as well. Very good guy. I'm just thoroughly looking forward to that fight. Honestly, that is an absolute brilliant fight there. Moving out now, though, to the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, USA. The return, Eddie, of Adrian Broner, 33-4 with a draw. He takes on the undefeated Giovanni Santiago, who's 14-0 with a draw, with 10 KOs, by the way. Adrian Broner back in the ring for the first time since his loss to Manny Pacquiao in 2019, which was 2 years ago. He actually doesn't have a win, Adrian, for 4 years. This week. That was the last win he had against Adrian Granados, and it was a split decision. Some people thought he actually lost that one there. Are you excited for the return of the problem?
If he's gonna actually be a damn problem, then nobody can. That it is easy to solve for somebody, but it's unfortunate that his career has been the way it has been. You know what I mean? He's really talented, but, you want to say the streets got him, but I think fame has got him more so than the streets. I think he's just got so caught up into what his name is and who he is as a celebrity more so than his ability as a fighter. And I think that's where he's lost, man. He's just, and a lot of athletes go through it. You can't forget where you come from, really. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be loyal to what you do. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't be famous without having something to be famous for. You know what I'm saying? You can't just all of a sudden, I'm famous. Everybody can't be a Kardashian. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you got to do what your talent tells you. And the way he's been recently, it's just not been good. You know what I mean? Talk about being about billions and all that craziness, man. Just box. Just do what you were meant to do, and do it the best of your ability. And eventually, things will work out for you. He's not doing it. He was doing it like he was already a star already, trying to be Floyd before he was even Adrian Broner. You know what I'm saying? You gotta make a name for yourself in a good way first. Then you can start having fun. But that's the biggest issue with him is, if he can get out his own way and use his talents and do the best that he possibly can do at the weight that he needs to be at, and be disciplined, take care of business, and good things will happen for him. I mean, I don't know if he's too far gone now, though.
We shall see. Wise words from Eddie there. The undercard is really good. Like, honestly, the undercard is brilliant. There's a great fight between Zachary Ochoa, 21-1, a 10-rounder there against Juan Velasco, 22-2. His 2 losses came to Regis Prograis and Mario Barrios, I believe it was. So No, was it Mario Barrios? Yes, it was. They were back-to-back losses, but he's come back with a couple wins. That's a really good fight. Also, Robert Easter Jr., 22-1 with a draw. I've been wondering what's happened to him, really, because he seems to have gone awfully quiet since losing to Mikey Garcia almost 3 years ago now. He was a really good fighter, huge for the weight. Anyway, he's back against Ryan Martin, 24-1. Again, he's a guy that's kind of gone missing, really. He lost to Josh Taylor in the World Boxing Super Series, and then he's come back with 2 wins, but they've been on like deep undercards in the middle of nowhere. So that's a good fight there. Robert Easter and Ryan Martin. Also on the card, Rashay Warren, 17-3, takes on Sharon Carter, who's 12-3. And then the final fight to mention on the undercard, it's another really good fight that I like, and it's a heavyweight one as well, so I'm going to come to you for it, Eddie. Otto Wallin, 21-1, of course. That one lost to Tyson Fury. He gets in with Dominic Brazil, 20-2. The 2 losses to Joshua and Wilder. Wow. I really like that fight. That could be quite fun.
Yeah, it could be an interesting fight. I mean, 2 big guys in there throwing punches at each other. You know, at the end of the day, it's who's the better man that night? Otto Wallin, in my opinion, I mean, I guess Dominic Brazil has, more notable competition in recent years, but he's been knocked out by both big names both huge names that he's fought. And, he has heart and everything, and that's all good, but you got to have a fight game too. And Otto Wallin fought probably the best heavyweight in a while. And then I'm saying a while, in the last 5 or so years, and Tyson has the ability to be an all-time great. And he did well with him. So, I mean, obviously, we know styles make fights, but, with Wallin doing as well as he did with Tyson and making that fight kind of interesting anyway, with the cut and all that stuff kind of worked out for him. But now fighting Dominic Brazil, you would think he would probably be the favorite one. And, I mean, that's just from that aspect. Now, obviously, fights aren't done on paper, and what looks one way can completely turn out and be the other way. So the idea of Wallin, just because he did well with Tyson, being the favorite can be, kind of like limited to a degree of trying to use that as a measuring stick. But he looked better. You know what I'm saying? He looked better against Tyson than Brazil did with Wilder or Joshua. So I mean, I guess you can't really say it or measure it any other way, and we'll see.
Okay, that is it for that one. Moving out now to the Escape Ballroom. The Escape Ballroom in South Carolina. Over here, friend of the show, Malik Warren. He's the undefeated prospect, 3-0 with 3 second-round KOs in a row. He's back here. He was on a couple weeks ago. He takes on Daron Merriweather, or Merriweather, I think it's pronounced, who's actually a debutant. So best of luck there to Malik Warren. Moving now to this one, taking place at the Doubletree Miami Mart Hotel in Florida, USA. Kana Islam, 27-0. He's a name that I just, I've kind of forgotten about, really. He had a really nice looking record, a bunch of knockouts. He's actually, he was born in China. He's a Kazakh nationality, and he lives in California. Can't get more confusing. I think he had a few fights in Canada as well, if I'm not mistaken, I think. Anyway, he is back on this card against Obadiah Sai, who is 35-3 with a draw. He has a loss to Walter Carlton Dokwa. I remember him getting beaten by Demetrius Andrade, and his other loss came to Jamie Cox. Wow. And Derek Webster. So they're decent guys, to be honest. All undefeated guys. But anyway, Kana Islam should be too much, despite Kana Islam not fighting since 2019. In fact, both guys haven't fought since 2019. Anyway, that is that one. Moving on now to the final card to mention. It takes place at the Bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. On the undercard, not too much. A couple prospects. I think his name's Xander Zayes or something. I don't know how it's pronounced. 6-0. He's a really good fighter, by the way. Sonny Conto, 6-0. He gets out again. Gabriel Flores Jr., 19-0. He takes on Jason Velez, 29-7 with a draw. That should be quite good. Esquiva Falcao, 27-0 in a 10-rounder against Artur Akavov. People will know him for fighting Billy Joe Saunders and Demetrius Andrade. He's 20-3. Elvis Rodriguez against Luis Alberto Veron. And the main event, Miguel Berchelt, 37-1. He defends his WBC super featherweight world title against Oscar Valdez, friend of the show, 28-0. Yeah, that's the 12-rounder, of course. Oscar Valdez, I'd love to see him do it. Nice guy, a little bit crazy outside of boxing with his exotic pets and the rest of it. They posted a picture this week of him with a huge anaconda around his neck. He is a bit crazy, but all the fun stuff and crazy stuff aside, he is a good boxer with a ton of heart. The only problem for me is that Berchelt is a bit too big for him. He's a big super feather, and Oscar Valdez for me isn't. He recently, of course, moved up to super feather from feather, and I don't know, man. I think Miguel Berchelt's too big and too rough. It's going to be an all-out action-packed fight because Oscar Valdez knows no different. The only problem is he doesn't have much defense, and he likes to walk into shots. He likes to give one to take one. Or take one to give one, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that's wise in this fight. I can't see him all of a sudden overnight turning into a boxer that hits and doesn't get hit. It's going to be all action. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be blood, I'd say. And I think, unfortunately, it probably ends with Oscar Valdez. I think he's going to go down, definitely. He's got a bit of a habit of going down and getting back up. I'm not sure he's going to get up every time he goes down in this fight. I think I can see him getting stopped within the distance. Miguel Berchelt, really big puncher, the absolute danger man of the division. I'm not quite sure. He's got power himself, Valdez, but I'm not sure it ends well for him. That's the final fight to mention. If you want to say a word on that fight, Eddie, if you want. If not, we can just wrap things up.
I've seen a little bit of Berchelt before. Not too sure about the other kid. And he is like a pretty strong, come forward, big punching dude. Aggressive. And if you got a guy coming up from a lighter weight to compete now, we all know that coming up from a lighter weight, the pace may be a little bit faster, but these guys are all like the divisions that are that low. They're all fast paced. So I don't know if that's going to be an advantage. I would think the size would be more of a disadvantage for the guy coming up. So it may be a real thing. A real tough task him coming up to try to. Especially if he's a come-forward guy right there to be hit, not really a slick, speedy guy, you know what I mean, like a Lomachenko or even, I can't even get his name out, but we'll just use Lomachenko. Even not like a Lomachenko moving around and using his creativity and craftiness and footwork and all. If he's just right in front of you, it's going to be hard for a smaller guy to come up and dominate, you know what I mean? So it's just I don't think Valdez will be able to, I don't want to say he won't do well because you never know. You know what I mean? Maybe he's just that guy. But I'm doubting it with Berchelt. He's just really a heavy-handed, aggressive, strong type of destroying type dude. And for a smaller guy to come up and try to compete with that, especially coming forward, is going to be hard.
Yeah, I have to agree. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope Valdez can pull it off. Like I say, he's a nice guy. I really like the guy. But it's a very tough ask. He has had 2 fights at the weight, but they've been against much lower level Adam Lopez and Jason Velez. This is the real deal. Berchelt, 37-1 with 33 KOs. It's a tall order for anyone, especially a smaller guy. But believe me, that is a fight not to be missed because, like I say, it will be all action. It really will. Oscar Valdez always comes to fight, and he's never in a dull fight. He's either putting you down or getting put down himself. It will be very, very interesting. So do not miss that one on Saturday night. Don't miss any of it, for that matter. We've spoken about the review part in part 1, and we welcomed our sole guest. We did the news. We've just done the preview. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 279 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the undefeated top welterweight contender, Mr. Michael McKinson. There has been one piece of news break whilst we've been recording the show, and it's a sad piece of news. Jamel Herring vs. Carl Frampton is off. It's been postponed. Carl Frampton has injured his hand in preparation for the fight. The fight will be rescheduled and a new date will be announced pretty soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe and we shall see you all again next week.